And welcome back to another Flipped Classroom lesson with Mrs. Bond. So today we will actually be reviewing and diving into our standard, our Tennessee Standard CS4 that really deals with words. And we really want to be able to interpret words. And when we talk about interpret, we want to figure out what these words and phrases actually mean within the context of the text or the story. Okay? So let's take a minute and go over our actual PBO. So at the end of this video, you should be able to identify context clues so that you can determine the meaning of the unfamiliar words and phrases, which includes figurative, connotative, and technical meanings. At the bottom of this video, you see that we have defined connotative. And connotative has to deal with the emotions, whether it's positive or negative, that are associated with words. And also, words can have a neutral connotation. They're neither positive nor negative. It's all about the emotions. And then we have figurative language. And we know figurative language is a type of literary device. It could be simile, metaphor, personifications, alliterations, onomatopoeia. It's how that word is being used in a different capacity. Technical meaning has to do with how the word or phrase is relating to a particular subject, a discipline, an area of study. For example, in English, we have certain words that are strategically used in our field. Same thing in that subject. Same thing in our field of education. We have technical meanings of words that are strictly used for education. So what I want you to do is think about the skill that we're learning, and remember that skill is always the thing that you will be doing. So you will basically be using context clues. And why is using context clues important? Well, it helps you to determine it helps you to determine the meanings of unknown words and phrases that you don't know. And why is it important? Why is it important for you to be able to use context clues to determine the meaning of these words? How does it help you in the future? How does it help you in class? So I want you to think about that. And when we come to class, after we watch this video, we'll be able to discuss this thoroughly. So I want you to pause this video, and I want you to look at the picture. And I want you to tell me, where do you think this picture is taken? Here's why I'm asking you to do this. Even though we're focusing on the meanings of unknown words using context clues, here's why, scholars. You use the same skills to figure out where this picture is taken. You use those same skills, those same concepts. You use it and apply that to text. Okay? So I want you to take a minute, go ahead and pause right here, and just look at the picture, analyze, and think about what you know about this picture. Okay? Alrighty, so go ahead and pause the video, and then when you're ready, you can go ahead and hit play. Alright, so you guys had an opportunity to look at the video. What are some things that you did? I'm quite sure that some of you all looked at the animals and you said, wait a minute, I know that those animals are not typically found in, Shelby Farms. This looks like it could be in a dry place, a place that does not have humidity. And you probably looked at the vehicle, and you probably also looked at the passenger in the vehicle, this guy up here, and you see that he's looking out, he's using a scope to look at something. So what does it tell you? You may have said, well, this seems like an adventure, and so maybe this is, at a wildlife safari, and if you said that, you are correct. words when we use context clues. We're using what is there. So context clues are nearby words that can help determine the meaning of these words and these phrases. Context clues can be found within a sentence. Context clues can also be found within a paragraph. Your keyword is context and clues. Context is hint. When we're talking about context, we're talking about the actual wording on the page. So you're finding hints through the words on the page. Okay? So if we were to look at this example again, context clues can be found within a sentence. So let's take a minute. I want you to pause and read this to yourself, and then I want you to come back. So Joseph is sequacious, a sequacious chess player because he is clever and makes wise game moves. What does it sound like? To me, this person sounds like he may be crafty or skilled at this game of chess. Why? Because he's clever and he makes wise moves. So in order to be clever, that means you have the capability to outthink or think on a different level. So I'm quite sure that word has to do with being skilled at something. Let's look at the second sentence. The mysterious tombs was filled with ancient means old, relics such as pottery, gold, jewelry, and handmade weapons. This sentence even gave me examples of what relics are. And I know right before the word relics, I have an adjective, which is ancient, and ancient means old. So again, here's why knowing your parts of speech will help you. Here's why looking at the words around the actual unknown word will help you. So someone may say, well, I think relics are old artifacts, from way back when. And yeah, you are correct. Pottery, gold, jewelry, and handmade weapons from a tomb. First of all, a mysterious tomb. We know that some people have tombs today, and then some people have tombs in the past. And this made me think about Pharaoh, right? So context clues can be found within the paragraph. Let's go to there. So the information leaked in the news story had been fabricated. The source did not exist. In fact, the subject matter of the article was made up by the newspaper. I want to know what fabricated means. So it says it's the news source, and this is the source of the news story did not exist. So did not exist means fake, right? Not real. And then we also have another phrase that connects with that, which is made up. If you make up something, it is not real. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to try to do the check for understanding to the right. Is which sentence has context clues that help determine the meaning of the word reiterated? How do you know? So this is a two-part question, guys. Anytime I ask you a two-part question, I'm looking for two answers. So yes, you may circle the correct answer or jot down the correct answer in your notes. And I want you to tell me, how do you know? What did you use to help you determine the meaning of that word? Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and then I want you to think about it and answer it, and then come back. All righty. So if you said B, you are correct. How did you know? Hopefully you use the words around the word reiterating, okay? Just like we did here when we tried to find out what sagacious mean. I don't want to say sagacious. Sagacious, relics, fabricated. Again, we're using the words that are near the unknown word to help us determine what that word means, okay? All right, so I'm going to take you through an actual example of what you will see on your EOC and on your assessments, okay? All right, so I want you to pause the video, and I want you to take a minute to read ahead of me so that you can do this along with me, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and do this together. I'm going to think out loud, and I just want follow along. So we're going to read the paragraph and we're looking at the bolded words. Remember our concept. We want to look at the words that are nearby to help us to determine the meaning of the word that we do not know. History of the marathon. Since the modern Olympic Games were founded, it has been a tradition for the marathon to be the last event on the athletic event calendar. The name marathon comes from the legend of Philoctetes, a Greek messenger. The legend states that he ran from the battlefield in the city of Marathon all the way to Athens, proclaiming the Greeks had defeated the Persians in the Battle of Marathon in 490 BCE. To commemorate or recognize this historic run, the organizers of the modern Olympic Games in 1896 elected to recreate the 26-mile run that would end in Olympic Stadium in Athens. The length of the Olympic marathon was erratic at first. For example, the races in the first few Olympic Games were about 400 kilometers, or kilometers, it depends on how you want to say it, 25 miles. Roughly the distance from Marathon to Athens. The exact length depends on the route established for each Olympic venue. The marathon of the 2004 Summer Olympics revived the traditional route from Marathon to Athens, ending at the same venue as the 1896 Summer Olympics. So we want to figure out what the word proclaiming most likely means. What does the word proclaiming most likely mean? Most likely. And why do I keep saying most likely? Most likely means as closest to as possible. Okay? So when you guys take a test, you may see a word or two words, two answer choices, may be very, very close. But you have to look at how that word is being used in the text. Again, keep it in context. So let's look. So I know that ignoring, proclaiming and ignoring. If I'm ignoring something, that means I'm not paying any attention to it, right? So let's look at how this word is being used. It says proclaiming the Greeks had defeated the Persians. Now, am I ignoring something if is that something that I should ignore? No. Is it something that I should conceal? Conceal means hide. Now, am I misleading something? Am I misleading? So I know misleading means to basically send someone on a wild goose chase. Is that, could I use that? I probably could. But does that fit what it's saying? No. What about announcing if I'm proclaiming something? And if my team or my country defeated the enemy, I think I want to say that out loud. So I think this word means announcing. Let's see. It does. And I used the clues in the text. The Greeks had defeated the Persians in the Battle of Marathon. That's something that you want to celebrate. And if you celebrate something, you probably want to announce it to the world. Just like when people getting engaged, they announce it to their friends and their families and their loved ones. What about the next one? So let's look at the word commemorate. What does it most likely mean? It says to commemorate or recognize. So in here, again, we have or recognize. This is a context clue. And this context clue is kind of telling us what commemorate means, right? So, that's not an answer choice. So that means I have to keep reading. So to commemorate or recognize this historic run, the organizers of the modern Olympic Games elected to recreate it. Well, if I'm recreating something, I know I'm not overlooking it. And I'm looking, Could it be the word create? Could it be the word celebrate? Oops. Well, I'm sorry, you guys. So the word is actually celebrating. You're commemorating something. You're celebrating. It's not overlooked because we see the word recognize here. Okay? It's not the word. Try to move that. It is not the word condemn, because if you're condemning something, you're breaking it down, you're tearing it down, and it could have been created. It could have been the word create, but if I'm recognizing something, I'm not really creating it, right? So no, that is not the answer. And I put create in here to kind of throw you off because of the word recreate here. I wanted you to think critically about what you're reading. So you had the word commemorate, and then you had recognize. So you had to see which word helps, which words are alike. Commemorate, celebrate, recognize. So I'm recognizing something by them celebrating you, right? If I am, that's the easiest way to think about it. I don't want to go any further on that. Sorry, guys. All right. So what about erratic? Erratic. What do you all think? We have this word erratic. It says the length of the Olympic marathon was erratic at first. For example, so here we go. We're seeing different types of context clues. This is giving us an example. The race in the first few Olympic Games were about 40 kilometers or kilometers, 25 miles. Roughly the distance from Marathon to Athens. The exact length depends on the route established for each Olympic venue. So it doesn't really seem like there is some consistency there. And the reason why I say this is because if we look at 7 says they revived the traditional route. So if I were to use context clues, again, I'm looking at the miles, I'm looking at the distance, and then it says the exact length depends on the route. So it's not consistent. It's not consistent at all. All right. So as you saw in our previous example, there were different types of context clues to help you all figure out the meaning of the word. So we're going to quickly talk about the different types of context clues that we have. Okay? So let's talk about how, as we saw in one of our examples, is that sometimes the writer will directly define the word or restate the word. Okay? We saw that in our example right here. We said to commemorate or recognize. Also, you have other examples right here to your right. Also, the author gives us signaling words and definitions to let us know, hey, here's a clue. We see which is, that is, or in other words, also known as, also called. Something that you guys need to really grasp hold to is the power of the punctuation mark. The punctuation mark will really help you to identify different phrases, definitions, and things of that nature. So, if we look at our example, you see where this comma is, and then we have our clue word. So, it's telling us the definition, okay, of our unknown word. Give me one moment. I'm sorry, guys. My throat is a little dry. So, where were we? So, when we see the word particulates, we see that it's being defined. We have our clue, which is our punctuation mark, and then we also have another clue, which is the phrase, which is, or which are, okay? Then we have the restating the meaning. So the woman was a philanthropist. Again, here's our clue with the punctuation mark, and then it tells us what a philanthropist is. It's a generous individual who gave thousands of dollars to charity. I wish someone would give me thousands of dollars. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm so sorry, you guys. I went a little ahead of myself. So let's do an example, okay? So again, we know that context clues can be examples. I'm sorry, not examples. It can define or it can restate. Define or restate. Okay? So I want you guys to take a minute and I want you to pause the video and I want you to read over this example, okay? The mountain pass was a tortuous road, winding and twisting like a snake around the trees of the mountainside. Here is our sentence, and we're trying to figure out what the word torturous means. Now, it does sound like torture, right? But we also have, again, going back to the different type of context clues, we also have a comma, right? And then we have, right behind the comma, we have like a type of restatement, winding and twisting like a snake. That winding and twisting. So, which word here at the bottom most likely means, or most likely can define our unknown word? So, would it be not direct or simple? Remember, we're talking about those. We know that we'll have a false positive. We're doing multiple choice. We will have text that we know, no, this is not it. We know B is not it. It's not green. But then poisonous, well, it did mention the snake, but it said winding and twisting like a snake. So we'll eliminate B and C. Now what about A and D? So we got not direct or simple. Okay. Not direct or simple. And then we have serpentine. Well, serpentine sound a little bit like snakes. And I know snakes, they wind, as we see right here. They coil up, they twist. So I think I'm just going to go out on the limb and I'm going to select serpentine, okay? And I use winding and twisting like a snake. So what steps did we use? What steps did I use to determine the meaning of the bold word or the emboldened word? I used what was around. I said, okay, I see that there's a comma, and a lot of times that comma lets me know that there's a break, and I'm getting some type of information. And I see winding and twisting like a snake. That to me is another way of restating the type of mountain pass or the type of road that the drivers were on, okay? Another type of context clues, we have example as well as comparison. So when we're looking at example, we're looking at samples of words which help us to unlock the meaning of the unfamiliar words. So we're looking for samples, things that we can relate to, right? So let's look at our example. Celestial bodies, including the sun, moon, and stars, have fascinated man through the century. What do you think this word means? Well, we have examples. We have, including the sun, the moon, and the stars. We know that these three things, they all have, these three objects, they're all in the sky, okay? They all have that connection to them. You know, the sun is in the sky, the moon is in the sky, and the stars, you know. You may feel like your boo is the stars, but we know that they actually reside in the open heavens. And then a comparison. When we're thinking about comparison, we're thinking about the similarities between things that are described, right? So let's look at the example here. herbivore, herbivorous cow, like other plant-eating animals, has special high crowned teeth suitable for grinding. Well, we get our comparison word. I'm losing my voice, but that's okay. We got our comparison word that lets us know that cows are being compared to what type of animals? Animals that eat plants only. So now you know what that word means, what your unknown word means. Let's take another example. So again, I want you guys to, I'm going to do the first one, and when you come into class, you guys will actually do the second one, the throttle. So some of her apparatus consists of hammers, nails, several saws, and measuring tape. Well, to me, I guess we could go ahead and do the other one. Apparatus. We have these examples, right? A hammer, a nail, and several saws. All of these things sound like equipment, right? Right. I didn't do it, and I did it that way. So my brother is enthralled by birds similar to the way that I'm fascinated. Your keyword was fascinated by insects. If you're fascinated by something, you're what? You're captivated. It has your attention. It has your attention. Okay, and then we have contrast and cause and effect. Contrast and cause and effect. Again, these are different types of context clues. We know we have signal words that will help us to determine what these words mean and how to use these words. So please, please, please take your time, go through this video. I know it's kind of long, I'm doing a lot of talking, but I'm doing, it's called front loading. I'm giving you everything that you need now so that when you come into the class, you can actually begin to utilize these skills. So you take your time, you pause this video, you read over these examples, you go and you define it so that you can have your own library, okay? So context clues also can be revealed through contrast. We're talking about contrast, we're talking about opposites, okay? The mathematic problems seem to be obtruse to most of us, but Journey found it quite easy to understand. But anytime we see but, we know that there is going to be some type of contradiction or some type of contrast, some type of opposite. So if it says Journey found it quite easy, what do we think obtruse means? Maybe difficult, or complicated, or complex. Very good. Another type of context clue is cause and effect. Well, we know cause is the reason, right? This is the reason that something happened, the reason of an action or an event. The effect is the outcome, right? So because the well water had been contaminated, we had to buy bottled water. Well, why would you have to buy bottled water? So think about when we had to buy bottled water recently, right? Our water wasn't clean. So contaminated could mean what? Unclean. Very, very good. That's exactly what we do. We use what we know and we mix it in with what we're learning. Okay? All right. So let's look at our next example. Gray was slowly losing her composure. At first she had been the picture of calm. However, as the conversation continued, sweat formed on her brow and her eyes darted around the room nervously. Several times she interrupted the others with strange remarks. What do you think composure means? Does it mean loss of loved one? Could it be Grace was slowly losing her composure? That doesn't sound like a person. Does it mean rage? Okay. At first, she had been the picture of calm. Well, calm sounds like it could be an opposite of composure. So, is it rage? Grace slowly losing her rage. At first, she had been the picture of calm. As the conversation continues, sweat forming from her brow. I don't think that's it. Is it self-control or peace of mind? Ooh, this is a tough one. I'm going to have to read it again. So if I'm a calm person, if I'm calm and I'm having a conversation, I know it's not D. I know it's not C. So I'm torn between peace of mind and self-control. I see nervously. So I'm going to look at all of the words. I see nervously. She interrupted others. So I guess when you interrupt someone with strange remarks, you could be losing self-control. Very, very good. And that's what we do. We take our time and we make connections to these words, okay? All right. So why is this important? And we're getting ready to wrap up. Why is this important? So determining the meaning of words using context clues will help you add new words to your vocabulary. That will help you to improve your comprehension. And using context clues will help you do well on tests. Okay? Do any of you have another reason of relevance for using context clues? Context clues. Oh, Lord. Ms. Bun's made a whole lot of mistakes on this. I did not proofread, you guys. So, charge to my heart. So, why do you think context clues are relevant to you? For me, again, it helps me to understand things that I do not know. So, in closing, here is your task for me. This is going to show me that you watched the video. So, to the right, I have put the definitions of the embolded words. You have to find the context clues. Okay? So, if I put the meanings, for example, the word regenerate means to regrow. Well, what word or words in this particular text will help me to know that regenerate means to regrow. So we're doing an actual reverse, okay? All right, so that, make sure you go back to that. So in closing, we know that we can determine the meaning of unknown words using context clues. Context clues are words that are nearby. And again, it's all about unlocking meaning. There are several types of context clues, such as comparison, cause and effects, and example. We know that using context clues will help increase one's vocabulary and repertoire, and anyone can use context clues. Okay? And you guys have a little bit of independent practice. If you want to try on your own, I'm going to just go through quietly so that you can try on your own. And then we will do this in class. This is an actual example of what you will see on your EOC. Okay? I've taken this from an example of EOC. Another example as well. Alright guys, so what's going to happen is in Canvas, I'm going to post a handout for you to do that ties in with this particular lesson, okay? Make sure you complete the handout and save it. Thank you so much for watching this video. It is one of our longer videos. You know I like to keep them at 15 minutes, but it was so much information here that I need to give you. And I guess most of our videos probably now will be 30 minutes. So you take it and you do the task and come back. This is part 1 of us doing the standard of interpreting unknown words as how they're used in the text. All right, guys. Have a good night.